France, the fourth of the five European maritime powers of the 17th century, started late in competing for the trade of the East in Indian Ocean. In 1668, the French fleet under the leadership of François Caron reached Surat, the Babylon of Oriental, and set up a factory to start the serious trade engagement with India, competing with other Europeans. A video in this regard is available in my channel and can be seen with the link given above and in the description. In the extension of their east operations, Caron ordered Marcara, his companion from France, to visit the then independent king of Golconda to secure the permissions of trade across his dominions and to construct a factory at Masulipatnam on the thriving east coast. Marcara, a native of Isfahan, Persia, with considerable knowledge of East, travelled to Golconda and overcame the English and Dutch objections at the Oriental court and secures a firman to build a factory in Masulipatnam without paying duty on import or export. Marcara's unprecedented success made Caron envious, and he arrested him for some fund fraud, which created some problems and confusion. However, later Marcara was acquitted in Paris, but India's senior officials' disagreement created problems in settlements of Indies. Further, Caron also intended to create a stable footing in Indies with total control that native Indians or competing Europeans could not access easily and then use it as a firm base for commercial activities with mainland India. From his rich exposure and experience in the Dutch East India Company and also taking cue from the Al-Bakr strategies possession of Goa, he proposed the succession of Dutch-occupied area of Ceylon. King Kandy of Ceylon also wished to get rid of Dutch and was ready to help French. Accordingly, Colbert, convinced with the Caron proposals, dispatched a respectable fleet under Admiral La Haye to fulfill the design, which first reached Surat and then proceeded to Ceylon in 1672. The French failed in first attempt to capture Point de Gaule, either because the site was too powerful or because their squadron was indecisive. However, moving forward, they took Trincomalee from Dutch garrison, but soon Commodore Rick van Goyen's Dutch fleet of equal force appeared there. Admiral La Haye, avoiding the confrontation with the Dutch fleet, left his garrison at Trincomalee on his own and sailed to Meliapur, then known as St. Thome, on the Coromandel coast, which they took quickly from the Dutch with little loss. The French garrison at Trincomalee surrendered to the Dutch, and the lone seizure of St. Thome did not satisfy the bosses at Paris, who blamed Caron for everything. Some envied his prominence, others despised his arrogance, and due to failure of this pricey excursion, Caron was promptly summoned to Paris for an inquiry in disguise of a project discussion. In 1673, Caron set off for France with all his fortune, but on the way back, when he learned from a stray vessel the true plans of the French government, he changed his route towards Lisbon and unfortunately drowned when his ship hit a rock. In the expedition against Ceylon and St. Thome, François Martin, a Frenchman, played a major role. He joined the Dutch East India Company at young age and left it to join the French. Probably he met Caron when they were both serving under the Dutch flag, and at Surat he was known as a man on whose energy and discretion Caron relied most, and he was considered the soul of the enterprise against the Point de Gaule and Trincomalee. Martin played also a crucial role in capture of St. Thome. Notwithstanding, the Dutch, determined to retake St. Thome, warned the king of Golconda of the French intention and threat. Accordingly, in 1674, Abdul Hassan, the last representative of the House of the Qutb-ul-Mulk, led a large army to besiege St. Thome by land, while the Dutch assaulted it by water, making it impossible for the French to get supplies. With no option left, the French surrendered but were granted favorable exit conditions. The majority, including two directors, La Haye and Baron, decided to return to Surat. However, a small minority of the French garrison with François Martin as leader chose their own destination in April 1674, after buying piece of land north of the Kolaroon River at the sea coast from the Sher Khan Lodi, the friendly governor of the king of Bijapur's possessions in Tanjore and Carnatic, to build buildings to protect his people and property. Martin also lent his spare cash to the governor at a high interest rate because trading to Europe was not possible due to Dutch domination. Sher Khan protection allowed the French and the community of local laborers to grow under the walls and subsequently became a town known as Pondicherry. Thus, an exclusive French town on east coast of India was born. amid war and crumbling kingdoms. The Sultan of Bijapur, on whose land it was developed, lost its independence in 1676. 12 months later, Aurangzeb's ambition consumed the Golconda. And Shivaji, the opponent of all established institutions, was also levying contribution wherever he could, annexing towns and provinces and establishing predatory power. In such a turbulent time, the only way to stay secure, especially in a wealthy town, was to be well armed. And no one felt this more than Martin. He asked his buddy Sher Khan Lodi for permission to host some native warriors for protection, who not only approved but also provided his own 300 men in his command in 1676. Martin used these individuals both as a colonist and warrior, and the settlements prospered for a while. However, in the 17th century, the peace in India was unusual, and Pondicherry soon faced trouble. After capturing various Malabar coast sites and becoming Maratha king in 1670, Shivaji travelled to Golconda, gave the ruler his protection, and pounced on the Carnatic like a tornado. Marching through English-occupied Madras, he invaded the impenetrable Jinji, which surrendered. And in May 1677, after taking Vellore and Arani, Shivaji defeated and imprisoned Martin's friend Sher Khan and threatened the French settlement of Pondicherry. With a few Europeans and native soldiers, Martin was helpless as resistance was impossible. He had dealt with Asiatics previously, so he first transported all the company's valuables by sea to Madras for safekeeping with English, and then bargained with Maratha. He provided large sum to Shivaji and recognized his authority. Shivaji soon headed to north after hearing the Mughals' invasion of Golconda, making Pondicherry safe again. Further doubting the position of Sher Khan, the long-time friend and protector of Pondicherry, the French asked him to refund his advances. Sher Khan, unable to pay, gave the revenue from Pondicherry holdings and the absolute cessation of the place, which was in interest of French establishing a stable income while building residences and businesses. Further, Martin also got permission to build a defensive fort at Pondicherry from Sambhaji, the son of Shivaji, in early 1689 with some payment and difficulty. The following year, in Europe, France and Holland went to war, and the Dutch appeared determined to take advantage of the opportunity to capture the now prosperous Pondicherry. The French fleet was too busy in Europe, leaving its Coromandel colonies on their own, where the Dutch forces were formidable with no opposition. Accordingly, a fleet of 19 ships, excluding transports and smaller boats, arrived before Pondicherry. It was the most imposing armament that had ever sailed in the Indian Ocean. Presumed protector of Pondicherry, Maratha was also shut in the fortress of Jinji under the siege of Aurangzeb, and the surrounding country fell under the influence of preponderating power of the Mughals. And on the application from the Dutch, they agreed to sell the district of Pondicherry for 50,000 pagodas. Accordingly, with Mughal consent, the Dutch captured Pondicherry on September 8, 1698, and the French were asked to leave for Europe. Thus ended the French first serious attempt to settle in Coromandel. Of all the French attempts in India, this one was under the most gloomy auspices and with the fewest resources. François Martin's energy, perseverance, gentleness with the natives, and fair dealing formed the real foundation of Pondicherry. Martin and his companions arrived in France with an encouraging reception, earning the King's Chevalier of the Order of Saint Lazare. He described Pondicherry and its advantages, bringing excitement to the directors who had previously neglected it. As France was fighting single-handedly against Spain, Germany, England and Holland, and of these England and Holland were her successful rivals in the Indies, France had to wait for the peace, which came at last on September 21, 1697, when the Treaty of Ryswick was signed, allowing Pondicherry to be recovered with its fortification and Martin in command. Martin began improvements by enlarging and strengthening fortification and collecting a garrison of European. In 1701, the Superior Council of the Indies was transferred from Surat to Pondicherry, making it the seat of the Governor-General. Martin was appointed the President of the Superior Council and Director General of French Affairs in India. Martin died on December 30, 1706, and was buried on the plot of land that he had occupied just 32 years before with 60 Frenchmen, which had risen up under his auspices in a large and flourishing town. He himself, its founder, had not amassed riches. He died poor but honored.